welcome all to your Casual HQ. Today, I thought it would be fun to do a reaction video to the devlog for C-Beams. If you're not familiar with C-Beams, it is a top-down space action RPG that LevelCap and his team have been making for the past 2 years. I think he did a great job with his devlog, going through the different systems, what new things they have been working on, and just how they work. So if you haven't seen one of these devlogs before, this is going to be a fun one for you to watch, so let's just hop into it.
Hey guys, LevelCap here, and welcome to devlog number 38 for a spaceship game called C-Beams. Welcome to devlog number 39, devlog number 40, number 41, number 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50.
First of all, congrats to him for being consistent and actually doing all these.
Oh, I think we're all caught up. Welcome to the year 2 recap for C-Beams. We started working on this game in January of 2024, so quite literally New Year's is like the anniversary for starting working on the game. Happy New Year's, everybody. And today I want to give you a recap on everything that we've accomplished in the last year of game development. And if you're new around here, this is a great episode to get caught up on everything that's been going on with the game. Plus, you can wishlist the game over on Steam. There's a link for it in the video description, and you can follow us a little more closely on Discord for more regular updates. Now, we spent the year just kind of racing forward, always looking at the next step, thinking about what comes next, and it's nice to spend at least this devlog looking back at what we've accomplished and just seeing how far we've come. So I want to get into everything we did for the year. So firstly, in 2025, we made the reveal trailer. Funny enough, it's now actually hard for me to watch this back due to just how dated everything looks from only a year ago. But the purpose of the trailer was to get the game listed on Steam and start to slowly build interest and wish lists before entering a proper marketing phase, which we still haven't yet. The trailer required us to really polish up a lot of the rough spots on the original demo of the game so we could at least capture gameplay that looked passable. Peter Chambers, our composer, whipped together a trailer score for us as well. Now, I'm happy to say that since this reveal trailer in January, we've built up over 42,000 wish lists on Steam. We got a big hit from the initial reveal trailer, and of course, kind of a year's worth of devlogs building up to a reveal of the game.
Pretty good.
And then the rest from regular devlogs and the occasional shoutouts on other YouTube videos with no additional marketing. Because we knew we are still quite early in development for 2025, we didn't plan on putting any extra effort into marketing and save that for when the game is looking much better. So
That's a fair point. It's easy to put way too much energy into marketing right away when it's not ready, and then you kind of lose that momentum.
So I'm actually quite pleased with the amount of wish lists we've built up over the last year, considering just how early the game was and that we've put very little effort into marketing so far. Now, to make the trailer and launch a Steam store, we also had to design the game's logo. This effort was led by Kyle Fiore, a graphic designer up in Washington, who really spent some time workshopping different ideas for us until we landed upon this logo, and I absolutely love it. Now, I put together the Steam store page and the little animated graphics. Honestly, this felt a bit more like paperwork than an actual creative endeavor. Steam really has a ton of checkboxes and hoops to jump through. In fact, we're now due for a bit of a Steam store refresh since a lot of the animated graphics and visuals are a bit out of date.
I appreciate him saying that too. You're gonna go to the store and you're gonna see some of those details don't look maybe quite like you'd want them to, but I'm glad they're gonna update those.
Within the game engine, our tech artist John Lagostini finished up his damage painting system that allows our ships to retain damage to their exterior materials. We also built our first pass on tutorial missions that required building an actual mission system and task-based completion system, complete with chat boxes and basic narrative elements. We also began working with Will Jeanette, a VFX artist, to update our game's VFX, starting off with updating ship explosions and adding new thrusters and engine VFX. Again, with the help of John Lagostini, we implemented our first settings menu to quickly experiment with in-game performance and visual tuning. We added in-world target brackets to the game and new ship targeting logic to help refine the combat experience, Rich added in our first AI range-based aggression system and a friend and foe logic as well, laying kind of some of the simple groundwork for basic
That,
AI
that looks
functionality. We
pretty
built our
sick.
first smart music player for the game, allowing for endless, non-repeating music that sounds quite good, to be honest. Big shout out to Peter Chambers.
Now, if it, that looks like if you've ever seen the movie Free Guy, that kind of looks like the AI cycle that Free Guy was using in a way in that movie. So that's pretty cool to actually see that that's how it flows. I thought that was just something that they kind of made up.
For working with us to dial in those systems. He also built a scalable combat music system, which has yet to be hooked up to our in-game logic, but it's going to be epic when we actually get it. We then designed modular space stations. This involved me planning around how many assets and materials we would need and how to connect them together. Kruger, our concept artist, drawing out a lot of the station parts for us, modeling by myself and Evan Browning, a little bit of kit bashing from some purchase store assets to fill in some gaps here and there, and then setting up the build system in Engine for rapidly designing unique space stations. We also
That looks pretty sick. That looks pretty sick, and that's cool that they're trying to find like ways to speed up development for things like this because you're gonna have lots of space stations, obviously. So I'm glad they're trying to do what they can to make them hopefully look unique. Because even if you look at games like No Man's Sky, like the stations can after a while feel like they look pretty similar.
redesigned the game's audio graphs. We found that the engine was maxing out the audio channels during especially combat sequences where weapon impact sounds were basically just not playing because we were playing too many sounds at once. So we ended up creating smart audio graphs to mix down the channels in more intelligent ways, and this ensures that we're not losing any important sound effects in the middle of combat. And while I was at it, I set up some engine submixes and automatic audio ducking. This means that if important audio, like say voiceover lines, are playing and you really want to hear it, the sound engine will compress environmental and music frequencies to make it much easier to hear that voiceover sound. Preben and John Lagostini built our first mining prototype, which is accompanied with a lot of great audio work from Panzer V1 and VFX work from Will Jeanette. And after building all the logic and functionality for this system and testing, we realized that there is probably a better way to handle this for gameplay, so we're actually going to get a Phase 2 update down the road, but there's a massive amount of VFX and mining logic here that will all transfer over just perfectly. John Lagostini also fractured our asteroid assets and built some asteroid actors that will break more dynamically. He also implemented a layered...
That's cool. I think it's cool how they break currently, but I think definitely more dynamically, maybe the variation too about how they break would be really good. The thing with mining, hopefully it doesn't feel too boring after a while, right? Like whenever you're mining in games like this, that's really the hard part I think to balance as a developer is how much do you make somebody mine, and once you mine something, how far travel a distance to actually use what you've mined.
Material system that we can use for painting ships and stations quickly to change their materials and colors in game for greater ship variety and dialing in the visuals as quickly as possible.
I do like that. It is cool that you can customize the ship colors and stuff. I don't know about the stripes. I'm sure that's probably just maybe something they're playing with. It kind of looks too camo-y, like to like COD or something like that to me. So I really hope that they can, have some more customization, even if it's just like something like an Arc Raiders where you change the color and the different pieces also like kind of have a preset color that they change to. So
Rich began learning the Unreal Performance Analysis systems to dive into the deep stats of how to optimize Unreal Engine systems, reduce hiccups, and figure out what exactly is actually slowing down our game versus just theorizing. And we kind of set a hard rule throughout the years, like stop guessing as to what's slowing down and actually look at the data. And that way we can actually put our optimization efforts towards the most important things.
That's a lot
Rich
of work.
updated our weapon development pipeline and built new weapons like laser systems, recoilless turrets, railgun turrets, and wheel chambers in Panzer V1, added the VFX and sound effects to help these weapons come alive. Rich built the Phase 1 star map for setting
Those effects do look pretty cool. Those are pretty cool. Regarding the star map, I know it's not finished, but I don't know if you guys have ever played Stellaris. I really liked the look of Stellaris and kind of its planets and stuff. I always thought it looked cool. So hopefully they go into some more detail here with these.
Jump coordinates to other systems and having a visual representation of locations and levels, which is great. It's the map for our game. We also started working with Nico, who is basically a graphic designer specializing in UI and UX experiences, and he's helped us develop a new look for our UI, which is still being implemented as we speak, but it's making the game look a lot better.
Funny enough, I was a graphic designer myself, and I went to school with somebody named Nico. So I know he does a lot of self-contract work. So that would be hilarious if it was the same guy, but probably not. But I don't meet hardly any Nicos, so maybe.
We then upgraded from Unreal Engine 5.4 to Unreal Engine 5.6. This brought us some performance enhancements and tools that we really wanted to use, though it didn't come without its own problems, and it ended up breaking our Bink videos, which we were using for our tutorial missions. This forced us to recompile a bunch of those tutorial videos as basic H.264 compression, and we'll see if Unreal fixes Bink down the road. Prebin built and implemented a dynamic camera system, which replaced our standard camera for one with tons of combat framing logic, multiple zoom levels, post-processing effects that we can trigger when we want, screen shake, and all kinds of extra stuff. Rich and Prebin updated the physics of ships to support dynamic mass, so the ships themselves will get heavier and more sluggish as they ingest additional cargo. This was a really exciting feature to first test out, and I think it's going to be the backbone of hauling ships versus combat ships and how they fly and perform differently. Rich?
I do appreciate that. If that's a nice little fine detail. I don't necessarily, and maybe that's just me, but if I'm playing a game like this, being able to just speed around with the fastest fighter and carry everything kind of takes away a little bit of the feel of that bulkier ship. So, and the movement in general does look cool in this game. I mean, I'm excited to test out the movement and how like fast you might be able to spin around or maneuver with the thrusters and stuff. So that'll be fun to play with.
Designed phase 1 of our procedural level system, which will populate levels procedurally with things like asteroids, points of interest, and more. The system will continue to evolve as it becomes the backbone for building environments and unpredictable content. We then designed smaller asteroid bases and
now the generation, I think it's a game, space games, I think do have to lean on that. No Man's Sky, I think got a lot of fluff, a lot of backlash from maybe how it handled it initially when it came out because it was pretty empty. I personally didn't play No Man's Sky until it came out and had a lot of changes already. But the one thing I will say is there are some things that still feel too similar. So I really hope with the procedural stuff that they take a look at that and see how they can make sure that it just doesn't look like the same thing with a different color. I really hope they make the areas look a lot different.
overhauled the asteroid base interior models with help from Evan Browning for the modeling work. This also meant updating our large asteroid base as well, and it's very nice to see some of these assets just get refined and polished up. We designed a new smuggler stash, aka treasure chest. Rich integrated the very first phase of our inventory system to allow us to trade and sell items and move them around and even jettison them out into space.
That's
Evan
cool.
Browning modeled our new cargo container so that we can have some nice variety to show different items in space. We updated and expanded our tutorial system to include an additional mission, and we're still part way done with the final main tutorial sequence that will bridge over into the open world gameplay. Very excited about this progression.
Very nice.
Now, with the concept art from Kruger and Island and the modeling help from Evan Browning and my support with doing some basic modeling, material work, UV and decal work, we built 15 new spaceships for the game, with still more in production and just not finalized yet. And I also want to give Panzer V1 an additional shout out, as he didn't get mentioned here enough, but basically every single system we built in the game that required sound effects, he was there making those sound effects for us. I
do want to say the ships look really cool. The ships do look really cool. The sound Sounds great. I love the look of the thrusters and the shooting effect so far. And as far as going back to the color, you can see like that has that white triangle on the front of that one ship, and just some red little decals and stuff along that. So my thought, just going back again, if you're gonna paint it blue or red instead of gray, those decals might just change color, um, to better suit the new one you pick versus having to like paint every single color individually.
They might have been small little bits of work here and there, but all together they ended up being a huge amount of sound effects for the game, and he's done a phenomenal job. Now, if you've watched every single devlog over the last year, you will have seen us cover most of these features, but we have some new stuff specifically for this devlog. They include adding space debris to the game. Evan and I have been working on the designs for space debris. This is still a bit of a work in progress, with larger space debris testing currently underway. We now have lootable scrap metal floating around in space and collidable space debris that just adds a fun ambiance to the game. Rich also put together the logic for derelict ship actors. We've had placeholders for derelict ships for quite a while, but now we can actually spawn a derelict ship that can actually be moved when you bump into it, docked with, and it has its own inventory with...
Is that a pig? That looks like a pig. That's totally a pig. What the heck? That's hilarious. I do like the derelict thing.
Items that you can loot off of the ship, aka it's a floating treasure chest in space, and it is awesome. He also designed the first pass on loot tables, so derelict ships can pull from a preset loot list, and this has a random chance of spawning items based on the probabilities that we set for them.
Another pig.
Evan has also been working hard on updating and fixing some physics issues with the game. The result will be much more realistic representations of spaceship flight and physics and collisions. It's not quite ready for the main branch of the game, and it is very hard to show off the differences since I'm essentially just showing ships flying through space, but I gotta say the feeling of ships now is just getting better and better. So overall, I am incredibly happy with what we accomplished in year 2. I set forward a extremely ambitious checklist that didn't even fit into the amount of weeks we had in year 2, and we nearly accomplished every single item on there. There are a few last little bits of core tech that we need to develop, such as a player skill tree, and we also need to do some deep dive into the AI to flesh out some more interesting combat profiles. Now, moving forward into year 3, we are going to wrap up our next tutorial and demo system. So it's basically going to transition from the tutorials into open world gameplay. I'm very excited about this, and it's going to come with a lot of quality of life updates as well. Year 3 is going to be mostly refinement, fleshing out the systems that we've already built to accomplish more and more tasks, and building out the game world and mission system. We're basically going to be building the game world this year, where years 1 and 2 were a lot of building tools and assets that we were going to need to build the world. This year, we're actually diving into it, and I gotta say, I am so excited. Can't wait to update you guys on everything that's going to be coming your way. I really appreciate everyone for sticking with us on this game development journey. When we began, we hadn't really used Unreal Engine before. Now we're quite comfortable with it, and I think 2026 is going to be an extremely exciting year for the game. Once again, if you guys want to wishlist us, we are on Steam. The link is in the video description, and as always, thank you so much for watching. You can catch other devlogs right here. I'll see you next time. This is LevelCap signing off.
Well, there you have it. There is C-Beams. I will put the link to the Steam page in the description in case you do want to go check it out and put it on your wish list. I will also put the link to LevelCap's video if you do want to go back and just watch it with him talking. Ultimately, I think this is going to be a great game, and if you do want to see some coverage of the demo when it drops, like and subscribe, and we will catch you when that comes out. Till next time, keep it casual.